To you from the beautiful metaverse, and more specifically from beautiful Danville, Illinois, homeland of the Correllian Tradition. And this is Midday with Reverend Don. As you know, if you follow Midday with Reverend Don, you can type your questions or comments into whatever platform you happen to be watching on, and they'll appear here in my chat room and we can talk directly. Last week, we were doing the Defense Against the Dark Arts week, and we had a lot of wonderful conversation with that, and I'm hoping we'll continue to have interesting conversations this week. Today, my subject is a little more specifically Correllian. I was going to talk about the Correllian First Priesthood. Um, as you may know, I am First Priest of the Correllian Tradition, retired in office, currently in my 44th year in that office, soon to be in my 45th. And that's a long time. Um, it has been quite a wild adventure over the years, but I thought I'd talk a little bit both about what that is and what it means, and what's happening in it today. In the Correllian tradition, we have a thing called retired in office, um, which means that the offices of first priest and first priestess are offices that are for life. But it is possible to retire from the daily duties of the administration while remaining part of the first priesthood. Hello to Brian in the chat room. It's good to see you, Brian. Um, Lady Crystal, the first priestess of the Correllian tradition, also for 44 years, has been retired for many years now in office, still first priestess, and for much of that time she had, well, actually several co-regencies, which is to say a person who was sharing that office with her, carrying out the daily duties. And most recently, Lady Crystal's co-regent was the Archpriestess Alyssa Maxon Kemp, and I had taken the co-regent Phoenix Coffin Williams. Now that has changed, and that's part of what we're going to talk about today. This last Friday night, the Correllian Watan Council met, and um, at my request, they had a vote on whether to end the co-regencies and do something we've not done before and fully seat the new First Priesthood while the old First Priesthood are still alive. Hello to Janet in the chat room. And this measure passed with overwhelming support, and I am very grateful to the Watan for doing that. What does that mean? And hello to Jan in the chat room. It means there are 4 First Priesthood, 2 active, 2 retired, and the 2 active First Priesthood, Lady Alyssa, Lord Phoenix, will be fully invested this spring with the investiture ceremony, but have been confirmed by the Watan, which means that they are not co-regents, but are first priesthood in their own right and cannot be removed, for example. They are permanent. And it's our hope that this will be reassuring to people who have been worried about the future. And I think that it's time. I think that it's a good choice. I think it's taking us in a positive direction. I think that Lady Alyssa and Lord Phoenix are the best candidates for these offices. Um, and again, the investiture will occur in May of the coming year. Um, let me see if I can remind myself of the date. But it's only a few months away now. And of course, I do not remember the date off the top of my head. But you'll see lots more coming about that. It's going to be quite an affair. It will be held at Pure Sanctuary Temple in Danville, Illinois. And it will be the first double investiture in 44 years, and only the second one in Correllian history. Ordinarily, only one comes to office at a time. And hello to Amethyst Firewolf in the chat room. It's good to see you, Amethyst. But, you know, a couple of times now, we've had both come at once. In 1979, when Lady Crystal and I became First Priesthood, it happened on the same day. And prior to that, my mother had been the head of the tradition, and she chose to retire and seat new First Priesthood. And that effectively is what is happening now. And that, in my opinion, went very well. We have been really on a constant mission of growth and modernization ever since. So I'm hoping this one will be as well aspected and that the future will remain very bright. Um, Both Phoenix and Alyssa, I think, are perfectly cut out for this role. They've already been co-regents for some time, so they're not unknown quantities. And they've been prominent in the tradition much longer than that. Um, so I'm looking forward to seeing how everything develops. And I feel like this is a very positive forward step. Now, um, what are the Correllian First Priesthood? They are a diarchy. They work together. They are joint heads of the Correllian Tradition, joint heads of the Corellian Mother Temple. And again, there are now technically four of us. Two active, two retired. And so we should have no lack for First Priesthood anytime soon. But traditionally, the first priest dealt with matters in the outside world, and the first priestess dealt with spiritual matters, connection to the ancestors, the sanctity of the tradition as a whole, which makes the identity of the first priestess particularly important um, in keeping the tradition focused where it needs to go. And I think that Lady Alyssa has been predicted by the ancestors many, many times over the years as an eventual first priestess, and um, has shown herself to enjoy the favor of the ancestors and also shown herself to be quite effective at everything that this office entails. And I think she's going to be wonderful for many years to come as first priestess. Hello to Lynn in the chat room. And Lord Phoenix, I think, is also going to be a wonderful first priest. And they work together beautifully. They neither one is trying to eclipse the other one, and that's how it's supposed to work. You know, in the 45 years, almost 45 years, Lady Crystal and I served in this capacity. I don't think we ever had a serious argument over any particular subject. On the rare occasion that we disagreed, we worked it out and usually found it was only the words we were using that we disagreed over. And I see this same kind of relationship in Lord Phoenix and Lady Alyssa. Um, I see the voices of the ancestors moving through them and speaking through them. And this gives me a lot of hope for the future of the tradition. As you may know, for a number of years, we had a chancellorship, which was abolished earlier this year. Um, and the purpose of that chancellorship had something to do with the retirement of Lady Crystal and the need for one person, at that time myself, to be able to act quickly. But that's no longer really the case. We now have two fully active First Priesthood, and we have the internet. So instant communication is always possible. But if you go back to when the chancellorship was created, it could be hard sometimes for the First Priesthood to be able to get together and discuss something. And that's why that was created. And I think it served its purpose. It was very important during the Great Correllian expansion. And I agree, its time has come and gone. But the First Priesthood remained quite important, I think, to the future of the tradition. The investiture ceremony is going to be, again, it's the first double investiture in 44 years. And I would imagine the last one that's likely to happen. We actually never thought we'd see another one. But the ancestors had other things in mind. And, you know, I've been asked on this program if the events that have transpired were my vision for the tradition's future. And in the end, I think my answer is yes, even if it wasn't always visible at the time, because the tradition has pulled together and solved its problems and moved forward. And that's what it was always meant to do. The systems in place worked, and everything has aligned itself. One of the things, if you ask me my vision for the Correllian tradition, it was always that we be a world religion among other world religions. One of the things you need for that is a system that will right itself if things go wrong. You need people who are sufficiently dedicated um, to be willing to stand up when things need to be done, and also willing to work together when things need to be done, and who will keep an eye on what is necessary for moving forward in the world, not what is necessary for momentary ego gratification. In speaking about the offices of first priest and priestess, I've always said the most important aspect is diplomacy. I've compared it to riding a surfboard with constant waves pushing you one way or another, and those waves are the powerful personalities that you will find yourself dealing with. And heaven knows, Lord Phoenix and Lady Alyssa have had an introduction to that, and they have done a good job of keeping themselves steady um, in the storm, which honestly is always there. If they do their job well, you won't see the storm. But having been here for 44 years, I can tell you, it's most always there. There's always something, and it's holding everything steady while those somethings happen that the First Priesthood have as one of their first duties. And I think that Lord Phoenix and Lady Alyssa are very well suited to do this. Lord Phoenix has a background dealing with mental health. He has been teaching counseling skills through the Blue Door for many years now. Lady Alyssa has been the armorial Grand Deemstress of the tradition for many years, and fulfilled a number of roles over the years. I think, and they've both shown an ability to work with people on a wide level, and that's what's going to be necessary. And what happens with me? Um, I'm retired. I'm still there to give advice. Um, I'm still there, and Lady Crystal is still here to give advice as well. And I have to tell you, we've faced so many situations over the years. We have valuable advice to give. Um, I have seen over the years, and even quite recently, situations um, where had our advice been listened to, things would have been much easier and would have gone in very different ways. But I believe that Lord Phoenix and Lady Alyssa are open to advice. But in the end, they will make their own decisions. And I have many things to do in my own life that are going to be quite interesting for me. And tomorrow we'll be talking about one of those, but that will be tomorrow. Um, it is, I've often talked over the years about watching the younger generation come up and feeling good about the future for that reason. And that remains true. I feel at this time very good about the future. And I think that the Correllian tradition is about not easily capsized. Now, in the nature of the world, there are always waves seeking to capsize every boat. But I think we've done a good job of keeping our boat going. So I am I'm hoping to bring Lady Alyssa and Lord Phoenix onto the show for interviews sometime soon, and maybe the first elder, Lady Laurie Blackman, the first director, Lord Phoenix, and other prominent members of the tradition to talk about the future and talk about what they hope to see as we go forward. And maybe to speak about what I'm loosely speaking about, Correllians as a people with a future, um, even a future of many branches, because like other world religions, we have more than one branch. Um, and that's only a natural part of evolution. As long as I can remember, the Wiccan community, um, at least where I was involved with it, had as one of its major goals to be a religion like other world religions, to be perceived as a world religion, like other religions. And that certainly has been our Corellian goal pretty much as long as I can remember. And I think that I think that we're doing very well with that, to be honest. And as I look back over 44 years, we've faced many little wars, many little difficulties, many problems, and always got through them one way or another. But this is part of being a world religion. Um, I remember earlier this very year, there was turmoil in, I believe, it was the Baptist conference, um, and if a group as well funded as them and as seemingly well established as them, um, will have their problems, of course. Everyone else is too. That is why we have a first priesthood. That is why we have a structure, because you always have to expect things are going to happen. So I want to take this time to congratulate Lord Phoenix and Lady Alyssa, on being fully seated as First Priesthood, and to say how much I'm looking forward to the investiture ceremony. And the investiture ceremony will be the final act in that um, establishment of their position, because that involves being energetically connected to the office of First Priesthood. And that is a very important step in the operation, although I will tell you that I've observed that that energy has already reached out to them and manifested through them. Um, and I see it already working. But we still will have the ceremony. And I would expect that will make everything even more connected energetically. When I look back at my own investiture 44 years ago, it was relatively simple compared to what we're likely to be doing in the spring, but still had all the same steps, all the same elements. Um, at that time, the Witan consisted pretty much exclusively of the Elders' Council. There was no real difference between them. Um, but it was there already to do the confirming vote. And um, at a later point, the two positions became more separate. And who knows what the future will hold in terms of how these bodies continue to grow. And I am certain they will continue to grow and change long after I'm no longer here. And that is what you expect to see in a world religion. You know, if you could go back 200 years in any world religion and compare it to its contemporary self, you would see differences in every single one. And that's because they're composed of humans who are constantly growing, constantly evolving, constantly learning new things. And therefore, these movements also grow and learn new things. Um, in the Correllian tradition, and we've talked about this in previous programs, and people have asked for more information on Correllian ancestors. I will point out we have a number of programs already dealing with this, but we'll do some more. But one of the things I've pointed out is that each of the first priestesses, um, who have headed the tradition, and also each of the first priests who have headed the tradition, um, have had their effect on it. Some have been more focused in one direction than in another. Um, some, well, for example, Mabel, the second head of the Correllian tradition, was very focused on the nature of incarnation and the soul. Um, my mother, Leveda, was very focused on interpersonal relationships and issues of right relationships and how people affect each other and the responsibilities of office and circumstance. Um, I'm very curious to see in coming years, assuming I survive for coming years, I'm curious to see how Lady Alyssa and Lord Phoenix make this office their own. Neither one of them is going to be me. Neither one of them is going to be Lady Crystal. That can't be expected. They are their own people, and they're wonderful people. And I think that for myself, it will be a bit of a treat to see how they adapt the tradition with their own special skills. Um, and I'm hoping that I will live to see quite a bit of this. If not, I'll see it as an ancestor. I'm very pleased to see the extent to which Lady Alyssa and Lord Phoenix have relied upon the ancestors, the oracles of the ancestors, on, I believe, a daily basis. And I think that has paid off and will continue to do so. One of the things that makes Corellianism unique is that even though we've had the diarchal leadership with first priest and priestess, it's always actually been a group because the ancestors, those who came before, have always been working with them. And um, problems start when that connection breaks down. And I feel at this point it's very strong. It is a group of the living and the spirits working together to move us forward. And hello to Renee in the chat room. It's good to see you, Renee. So I'm looking forward to that. We are busy putting together the illustration, and it's going to be quite an event. It's a beautiful location. There will be all of the things that you would expect from illustrations, um, and some things that you have probably never experienced before and will probably never experience again, such as the investiture ceremony itself. Um, and the investiture will be on that Saturday. Um, it will begin on that Friday night. We'll also have temple deemings, as we always do. We'll have the illustration itself, as we always do. There'll be initiations. I believe there are going to be classes. It's going to be quite a busy weekend, actually. And I hope I'll see many of you there. And I just realized that our caption um, had not been changed. So, anyway, these are some of the things that are on my mind this Monday. Now, tomorrow I'm going to be talking about Witch College and things involved in that. And that should be quite an interesting show as well. Last week, as we were talking about, we were doing Defense Against the Dark Arts, and people quite enjoyed that. And so I'm curious for what future subjects you'd like to see me speak about. Um, do you want to hear more about Defense Against the Dark Arts? Do you want to hear um, more about advanced magical techniques? Do you want to see interviews? Um, we will see what all we can do. Today, um, Today we are talking again about the First Priesthood elect and um, and the fact that it's a very bright future. And I want to extend my congratulations again to Lord Phoenix and Lady Alyssa and to the Watan for moving forward in such a manner. I think everyone's going to be pleased, or most people will be pleased with the result. And I think it's going to go very well. So tomorrow I'll be talking about which college. I want to take a moment and talk about some of the things we have at Correllian Publishing. We have Travel Magic. The screen is mirrored at the moment, but this is the Travel Magic book. You may have heard us talk about it. Um, it is a book by Lisa McSherry. It focuses on magic in terms of travel and ways that you can use magic to improve your travel, but it also serves as a bit of an introduction to the subject of magic if you don't have a lot of background in it. And if you do have a lot of background in it, it will introduce you to many wonderful new techniques. We also have the recently published Correllian Book of the Dead. And some of the things we've been talking about today, we talk about in the Book of the Dead, like working with the ancestors. And one of the things about Correllianism that's different from everyone else, I would say, is the extent to which we involve ourselves with the reincarnational sciences and the extent to which we involve ourselves with the ancestors, meaning that you don't necessarily leave just because you have died. You can remain quite involved, um, basically as a spirit guide. And learning how to do this is not really that difficult, learning how to receive the messages of the ancestors. And the Book of the Dead talks about it in considerable detail. So these are some of the things we're doing. I'm working on beginning the next book, and we'll be talking about that soon. And with that, I see we've come to the end of our half hour. And once more, my congratulations to Lord Phoenix and Lady Alyssa, jubilations to the Correllian tradition, and I feel that we're moving forward actually very well. And, life is life. And the key to living life is to keep going and to go forward in strength. And I want to thank you for keeping going with me on this broadcast and otherwise. I love you all. I love talking with you every day. And do let me know what else you would like to see. And as we move forward, hopefully you'll continue to enjoy this broadcast. And with that, let us close with our prayer, as we always do. And I will see you tomorrow. Divine Mother Goddess, Divine Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you for all that you do for us in our lives. And we thank you for bringing us forward constantly. We know that in life there are only two real directions, forward and static. And we ask that you always help us to move forward and not to get caught in situations, but rather to be constantly evolving and growing. Just as the universe itself is constantly evolving and growing. Beloved Mother Goddess, beloved Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you with great love and thanks, knowing you are always with us. We thank you for your presence, and may you be blessed now and always. And I thank you for your presence. I will see you tomorrow, and may you be blessed now and always.